GM everyone. Today we are with Sweetman, one of my favorite on-chain builders out there. What's up, my man?
Doing well. Happy Friday, everybody.
I'm super excited actually to be here. This is our first interview of a series of interviews that we are going to have with different on-chain builders that are earning rewards via our Builder Rewards program at Talent. The most known one that we have is the one from Base that now it's actually called Top Base Builder of the Month. And Sweetman is always there. He's always on the 100 top base builders. He's always shipping, doing cool stuff. So we have him today to explain us what is he building on chain, why he's building on chain, and why he's building on base. So yeah, I mean, do you want to intro yourself? Like, what are you doing? Like, why Sweetman? Like, just go with the flow and tell the people who you are.
Cool. I'll take maybe 3 minutes to try to talk over that. Well, first, just talking who I am, and then I'll pause. I am Sweetman. I'm the dev for Onchain Music, and I'm going to share screen and then just to give people and how I typically identify myself as the dev for Onchain Music. So I've been building a lot of projects on chain. I started
That's
building.
a green GitHub.
There's a green GitHub. We merge a lot of code, 6,000 contributions in the last year, and you'll notice there's not a week off except I'll go on vacation maybe with my family once a year. Even for like Christmas and New Year's, I try to ship up and until the actual day. So I'm merging a lot of code. Started on-chain stuff with Mint songs back in 2022. After that, I went very independent. And so all of these are on-chain projects. I built Liquid Splits with the 0x Splits team. I built the merge album when the Ethereum merge happened with Song a Day Man. I built an on-chain record label with Chill Pill, song camps in Buenos Aires, a leadership board for Zora, an album that Excellencia is working on right now. Sonata was the first and only music client on Farcaster. Recoup is an AI tool for musicians. In Process is a fork of Zora before they moved over to Coins. And then I do work with platforms like CoopRex and Recoup and In Process. And I also do work with independent musicians like Excellencia and Latasha.
That's a great track record. I mean, you have been shipping a lot, and if I were able to like reduce your biography in like 2 or 3 words, it would be on-chain music dev. Like I know a lot of people know you from that. On-chain music was like a huge topic back on the then, where like Socialfly was kind of like exploding, and you were kind of the reference. I mean, you are still one of the reference. What do you think about the on-chain music kind of stuff? It went a bit low, right, under the radar.
The attention has definitely gone down. There are still people that are around. It has drifted much more to the background. You'll find anybody that's building an on-chain music is doing it much more on the back end. They're not talking like the sound era of 2021 of I'm going to list a music NFT and I'm going to earn an ETH from it. That doesn't exist anymore. Nobody is experiencing that. The people now are much more like everybody understands on-chain infrastructure is better for the music industry. The music industry doesn't share deals publicly. There's tons of middlemen that take people's fees. Payouts are very slow. These are things that very easily get fixed by smart contracts and stable coins. And so both of those are kind of being adapted more of let's use stablecoin payments. That way payments move faster and we can do micropayments. And let's do smart contracts to make whatever deal we're doing more publicly, whether that's listing rights or listing a song or just doing the flow of a document through an organization to be able to have consistent and shared states for all of the documents that are being passed through a record label.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting, and the whole industry itself is moving like more focused on the financial use cases and on different verticals. Music is one of the verticals, but the main focus always is like financial incentive, right? But you told me were working with like different artists and different platforms, including Coop Records, which is one of the most known ones. Like, are you still actively collaborating with them? Like, what are you doing there? What is the new shift of these platforms? Can you tell us a bit about that?
Coop Records, I was working with them since June of 2024, so about a year and a half. We just wrapped up the contract at the end of December, so this is my first month being out of that contract. I decided I wanted to focus more on Recoup. Recoup is now, we got enterprise clients, and this is the first time I built a product that has customers paying us tens of thousands of dollars. So it feels like First time that I've been able to say, okay, we actually have something in on-chain music, no investor funds, getting paying customers. So I'm trying to double down on that. With CooperX, I joined them being their head of protocol. I built their protocol for all of their collectibles and then their original coins protocol. They have now pivoted to using Doppler, just like Zora does. So they're
Yeah.
not building their own protocol for coins. They're now using that one. And they are now shifting their focus into clipping. I don't know how public it is, so I won't talk too much about it, but they're shifting away from the very in-your-face coins and collectibles and now going more traditional music label. They own some of the rights of the musicians that are on their label, and they're now focused more on the on-chain layer is stablecoin payments for the musicians and their label, not so much trying to focus on putting songs into collectibles that turn into coins and stuff like that.
Yeah, I hear a lot about clipping. I think, well, Pods Media was like focusing on clipping before shutting down. If you don't know, like Pods Media, was one of the main podcast platform out there. They just shut down like last
Wow.
week, and
Didn't-
yeah, I know it was huge. I was used to like post podcast there. It was one of my favorite platforms. But yeah, I mean, SocialFi is not that trend anymore, and people are running out of money, kind of like beer market. So that makes sense. Can you tell us a bit like how did you enter like the on-chain era? You were like a normal developer, average developer back on the day, right? Or where was on-chain like your first experience with shipping code?
I was working with Amazon Alexa and Google Assistant was my foray into coding. I was building Google Actions on the Google Assistant and skills on Alexa. And I was building with musicians. I was building AI for musicians so that if you talk to Alexa or you talk to Google and you said, talk to Bad Bunny, instead of just hearing the synthetic Alexa voice come out, you would hear Bad Bunny's voice come out. And then you could have a back and forth conversation with Bad Bunny without needing to pay him however much you would need to pay him to actually get 30 minutes of his time to get on a call. Musicians ended up asking me where my voice is stored. How do I get access to those voice files? Hey, my fans don't want to talk to Alexa because they think it's always listening to me. And that started to open up the question of where's my data? Why are we building on these centralized platforms? And then Ethereum came into my view of, oh, there's this open platform that runs forever. It's transparent. It's globally accessible. And it's not centralizing power like Google and Amazon. That interested me. I started learning how to write smart contracts using crypto zombies. And then the goal was, how do I get paid to learn? It's cool to learn things on your own. It is even better if someone is paying you to do that. A lot of people are used to going into debt, learning a new thing by going to college. I think that's a broken mental model. It is much more exciting to learn what's the thing you want to build. How can I get someone to pay me for that? And so then at the time I was listening to the Bankless podcast, they were doing their jobs boards all the time. And so I went on the Bankless job board, and anything that was art related, I just applied to that job. Mint Songs hired me as their first full-time engineer. And so then I was able to get paid. I didn't know a ton about smart contracts, but nobody did at the time. And so then I got paid a full-time salary to learn and experiment and build all of Mint Song's protocols. And that allowed me to have the investment in myself to be able to now run on my own and have the education I need without going back to college and learning outdated information.
That's actually a great mentality to have. I didn't hear too many people talking about like uh, getting paid by learning. I know a lot of people that don't like the college model. They go on their own, try to learn crypto zombies. Huge shout out to them. Like they teach probably a lot of the actual developers that we have on the ecosystem right now, but not so many of them get paid while learning. So that's a great concept for sure. You told me that you started building on chain after like building cool things for Google with AI. That's crazy that you have been shipping with AI even before AI was kind of a trend. But how was your experience with on-chain building? Like, can you remember which was like the thing that you most struggle with, or maybe you are still struggling right now at today's days?
The biggest struggle is always indexing for me. You want to be able to get information, like a very simple thing on Shopify or on eBay or on Amazon is like, here's a list of all the purchases that I've had. But if you want to get that on chain, you can just raw query it, but you'll often get rate limited or you'll be querying too many blocks. And so there's this whole other side of on chain, which is it all lives on the chain and it's publicly accessible, but that's a ton of data to be able to parse through. And so now indexing that data of taking snapshots of data and then putting it in my own database so that way we have access to it. There's a lot of solutions around it. It's still not as robust as I'd like it to be. It continues to get better. It was way worse, but that's something that has always been a problem since day one that I think still is a problem in today. And the biggest mental models for the solutions, if you're listening to this and you have a problem indexing, I use Envio, envio.dev. There's also ponder.sh. The legacy models, which were in the last cycle, was Graph. The Graph is its own blockchain, which is also an indexer. It's slow and expensive. But you can also use Alchemy. That was more of last cycle as well. I don't find them as good for smaller startup teams. And so if you are listening to this and you have another indexer solution, I'm always looking. So please send me a DM if you have other indexer solutions you recommend we try.
That's actually a great thing. I was going to ask you, like, which are like the top solutions that you recommend. I was thinking, of course, on Alchemy and Graph. They are probably the most popular one. That it's interesting that you mentioned two other solutions. You consider them as past cycles, like they are not out to date anymore, or what?
I don't know any team that's still building on the Graph.
Really? I thought they were like super popular.
They might. What's it?
Maybe.
XRP is also super popular.
Yeah, you have a point. You have a point there. And didn't you consider like indexing, like running your own nodes and indexing on your own the chain?
I have done my own indexer. It's just don't reinvent the wheel. There's teams out there that are focused on this, and they've dealt with all the errors. And if you build it yourself, you're going to hit those errors. How do I scale if the chain forks? If my indexer misses a block? How do I do retry errors with the RPC? There's all these considerations you need to make when you build your own solution. And these other ones are free and open source. Like Envio is free and open source. Ponder.sh is free and open source. So the same question I ask builders when they say, I built my own ERC 721 protocol or ERC 1155, I ask them, how is this better than what Zora built? And if I didn't look at Zora, okay, well then I'm not even like, whatever you build, I'm not even considering it because you approached this and said, I'm just going to vibe code or build my own thing. Well, these teams have been approaching it for years. They've been put at massive scale and they have updated their mental models to do that. If you're just saying, I'm just going to ignore all that and I'm just going to build my own, unless you have already built on these and you see where the flaws are, where you need to home roll yours, I think it's a very insincere implementation to just say, I didn't look at it and I just built my own. Why are you reinventing the wheel? There's a lot of smart people that are publishing a lot of open source code that you could have learned from, and you just shoved your head in the sand and said, no, they're not smart. I am smarter than these people, when in fact you're likely not.
You have a point. I completely agree. It's more productive to use other tools. I still think that it's always great for learning, like to teach yourself, like, okay, this is how I build the thing, right? But you have a point. You have definitely a great point. I know these tools could be expensive. Some of them like could be expensive and more when like you are subscribed to a lot of tools. Like for example, I give us an assumption that everyone is paying $20 for ChatGPT. Maybe if you are a dev, you are also paying $20 for Cursor, and it all stacks up in a great dollar bill. So that's why we are like trying to give these builder rewards with different ecosystems. So for example, with Base, so people that are building, they get money for building, they can pay their bills with their with the money that they earn, and they can build more and progressively ship more things over time. So you earn a lot of money with a lot of money. You earn rewards with Base builder rewards. So my question is like, why Base? Why you choose Base to build?
Base is where the most traffic is, and they have the tooling I need to build top tier experiences invisibly behind the scenes. Paymasters work out of the box. I don't need to fund a paymaster. If you're not familiar, allows me to sponsor transactions so that people don't need to have ETH in their wallet. And those tools do exist in other ecosystems, but on Base, they said apply and get credits. And the old traditional model is you get AWS credits to run your AWS compute, which is cool. The same thing on-chain would be sponsoring your gas. And I asked Base, can you give me $1,111? And very easily we're just like, yeah, here's $1,111 in credits. And I haven't even made a dent in that. And I know that if that ran out, they would be fine to give me more credits. They've got the Coinbase side with all their tools for spinning up accounts. They have their blockchain, which has tons of traffic. The network of other apps that are built on Base, people have money in their wallets on Base. Like it, if you're a developer looking for distribution and you're looking for how can I lower the friction so that people give me their money or they insert a credit card, Base is there, and the team is open to working with smaller builders like myself and with other devs, which is not something that I found. I originally started on Polygon and I had no idea how to get in touch with the Polygon ecosystem. A lot of people say the same thing about building on ETH mainnet. It's hard to get in touch with the foundation, but the Base team is very open to, if you are a sincere builder and Jesse always says it, if you build, you'll get rewarded. And if you build and you want to contact the team, maybe not Jesse directly, but someone on the team will give you the time of day and will help you. And if you continue to do that, they'll pay you and they'll help you get distribution.
Yeah, that's true. I hear like a lot of people are struggling to contact like different chains, mostly chains, not projects, but chains are usually like they try to seem corporate. They don't answer like DMs, and I kind of understand it. But that's why we need to give like a huge shout out to the Base team, because they are like always helping. Even though I read some comments saying that people are not receiving help, at least on my experience and your experience, we are always like receiving help and technical support whenever it's needed. So yeah, huge shout out to them. I also agree. At Talent, we build on Base. They have like most of the traffic, most of the newest tools. They are even developing their own standards for tokens that they are going to launch soon. So that's pretty interesting. And yeah, and about like your next steps, like you already participate on the Onchain music space, you're building on Base, you are earning rewards. What's next for Sweetman? You told me that your contract with Coop Records kind of like sunset last month. What is next? What is in your head?
This year, I want us to get to the top of, I would like us to be consistently in the top of the leaderboard for X402 scan for Recoup. X402 is a payment standard specifically built for agents. And I think this is the most interesting place for new businesses to be building, not supporting the dead internet theory that the majority of things that are created and distributed on the internet are not made by humans. I think that's a trend that's going to continue. And rather than getting appalled and being like, oh no, the internet's dead, but I spend the majority of my time on the internet, does that mean that I'm interacting with bots? Yes, you are. You're interacting with bots. I don't think that's something you should try to fight. I think it's something to lean into and say, how do I build this so that an AI agent can use it? Recoup is today number 55 in top earning. We've only earned 2 cents a day today, which isn't a ton. So my goal is to just keep increasing our ability to be easily consumed by AI agents, make it so that AI agents can pay us for the services that Recoup offers. So that way that can be the baseline. My hypothesis is if you build it so that agents can use you, it makes it easier for developers to use you, which makes it easier for real life humans that know nothing about tech to use you. And so I think focusing on that core bottom level consumption by an LLM then feeds all the way up to ChatGPT. If a musician here in Cali, Colombia says, how do I build on Recoup? Everything's already consumed by an LLM to make it easy for ChatGPT to surface that info and to make it easier for anybody to use the tools that I'm building. On the in-process side, so far we're at 7,200 collections with 5,000 artists and 7,000 moments. I want to increase the number of real human artists. The majority of this is AI agents that are building on top of in-process. And I want to continue to increase the number of actual human artists. So shortening that, I want Recoup to be higher up consistently in the top 10 on the leaderboard of X402 scan. And I would like in-process to have at least this number of artists that we're showing here of actual human artists. Those are where I'm building, at least for this year.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. So you are betting big on the X02, X402 system that it was launched by Coinbase, right? Yeah. Okay, that's great because a lot of people are using it outside of crypto, so that's huge. And I have a question about that I'm always wondering, like, if agents can permissionless start using technology from other platforms, if I don't know, if I ask my agent where to host my platform, probably one of the top recommendations I'm going to get is Vercel. And maybe if I don't ask for recommendations, he will go directly into Vercel. How, as builders, can we make that our tech is the first thing that an agent thinks? Like, for example, you are building certain tech and probably you have 10 competitors apart from you. How you make it possible for other agents to go directly to your tech first? There's any tips there?
Yes, the two things that I like to focus on are one, llms.txt. This is a file that has a pretty common shared standard now of you include an llms.txt file in the root of your project, and it makes it so that if you pass that link into ChatGPT, it can read the doc and it knows everything about your site. So this is like in the previous cycle or in the previous version of the internet, everybody used robots.txt, and this was allowing Google to be able to parse your site. The new version of that for LLMs is llms.txt, and this allows your site to be parsed by LLMs, which would then increase. So if you paid an SEO expert in the past, the SEO expert would help you improve your robots.txt. If you pay an SEO expert to help you with LLMs, they'll help you with the llms.txt file. So that's one. The other thing, and this is a new one that I'm doing, is making all of my docs, building my docs on an LLM consumable platform. So before I was using Vox. Vox is what the Farcaster, Vox Dev, it's what the Farcaster team uses. It is easily consumed by LLMs, which makes their docs great. So if you go to Farcaster docs, these are also built on Vox. So you can copy any of these doc links, put it into an LLM, and then they just work. I have recently left Vox, recently as in the past 24, 48 hours. I left to go over to Mintlify. Mintlify is just like Vox, except I think it is better. I think it's better than Vox. And just to show you, if you go to developers.recoupable.com or docs.improcess.com, we just migrated both of those docs. And I think so one, just like anywhere else, you've got a drop down, opens up the docs in ChatGPT.
That's a must. That's a must
like,
for any docs nowadays. Yeah.
And I don't need to do this. Like this came out of the box. I didn't need to program this. It just, boom, I got it. MCP, whatever. The thing I think is really cool is that I can send the query right here. So I don't need to tell people go and open it up in Postman or go and use the command line. Just use this, click this button, and then you just fill out a form to fire an API request. So even if you're non-technical, you could potentially fill in some of these things and try out the API right from our docs, and then pass it over to your LLM or your vibe coding tool. So those are the two things that I recommend if you are trying to get higher discoverability. One, add an llms.txt file to your main app. Two, if you're writing docs, use either the Vox framework, the Mintlify framework, or some other framework that gives you all these powerful LLM tools right out of the box.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, again, nowadays everyone can ship, and having docs that actually fit LLM needs, it's a must to have. So that's kind of great. But yeah, I mean, I'm super proud to be talking with you. You are one of the reference when it comes to Onchain building, to music, even to AI. You are like always doing live streams, helping people build their own stuff, even if they are not technical, and that's amazing. We even did a live stream together on the past with Coinbase Developer Platform. Was one of the most fun that I have doing streams probably, and yeah, it was nice to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Juanpi. Again, happy Friday, everybody. Feliz Viernes.
See you guys.